So for those who don't know, I'm Kirsten and I'm a grade 11 student who's currently in history. So we were asked to do we were assigned to do a project about the relationship, an international relationship that Canada has. So I picked the Canada and America international relationship. It's one of the easier countries to pick because there's so much history behind it. We're neighbors with them, so that's one thing, and then also on top of that, we've been close allies, we've fought against each other, there's a lot behind it to research. So for my first part of the project, I'm doing it on the continuity and the change of this relationship. So the relationship between Canada and the US is one that has continued to grow and change over 2 centuries. So obviously there have been some changes in the relationship for the better and some for the worse, but somehow these 2 countries have managed to keep a very peaceful and professional relationship that has formed into one of the most stable and mutually beneficial relationships in the world. So Canada was originally a British colony, and it continues to be strongly influenced by the British monarchy to this day. And actually at the time of what I'm about to get into, the War of 1812, Canada wasn't actually Canada. It was still a British colony. Confederation didn't happen until 1870. So I'm getting ahead of myself though. One of the most significant events involving US-Canadian relations was the War of 1812. So this event caused great change, and it played a huge role in the shaping of the 2 countries that now make up North America. So Canadian Confederation, as I said before, didn't occur until 1870. So at the time of the war, Canada was still a British colony. Indirectly, the War of 1812 was caused by Britain's attempt to impede America's trades with France, since at the time Britain was at war with France. The US also had a strong desire to annex Canada. And annex, I had to look it up, it means to take over. So America wanted to take over Canada and make it part of itself. So over the years, America has made multiple attempts to annex Canada, but we still continue to stay our own independent country. So America declared war against Britain on June 18th, 1892, and this continued until 1815 when the Treaty of Ghent was created. So this treaty, along with a series of agreements, strengthened the peace and the relationship between Canada and the US. Generally, when we think of war, the consequences that immediately come to mind are negative. In some sense, this war did have a negative impact, as thousands of lives were lost and many were injured. But the bond that was created between the US and Canada is one of the most positive and influential changes of the century, in my opinion. After the war ended, the border continued to be the same, which led to a peaceful settlement involving the border dispute. And this continually allowed for the 2 countries to have a friendly relationship. The war established distinct national identities for Canada and the United States with a newly significant border. And since 1812, these two countries have not declared war against each other, so that's been over 200 years of peace. So as global imperial power began to decline, Canada and the US became extremely close partners. In the long run, this has proved to be a positive change in their relationship because it has benefited both countries substantially economically as well as with the military. So although Canada and the US cooperated in both world wars during World War II, Canada and the US had their first military collaboration. So the first collaboration was the so-called Seed of Change, and since then we have become close allies in most wars. This relationship continued into the Cold War when we fought side by side yet again. Military collaboration has not always been this peaceful though. Canada didn't agree with America's stance regarding the Vietnam War, the status of Cuba, and the Iraq War. So even though these countries have had disagreements, they still continue to have a strong military relationship that continues to grow and evolve to this day. In 1971, the US decided to add a 10% tax to all imports. President Nixon, who was the president of the States at the time, said that the special relationship between the US and Canada was dead. So these events made the Canadian and American relationship a bit rocky through the 1980s. Trades went down, which put hardships on our economy. And in 1987, the Canadian-United States Free Trade Agreement was put in place and has prevented further tariffs. So by tariffs, I mean tax increases or anything like that. So the original tax increase led to the future change, but has had a positive outcome. Since the agreement, trades have been very peaceful for the most part, and as time has passed, our relationship healed, and we continue to share the world's longest border, and we are currently the world's largest trading partners. So culture is something that differentiates countries from each other and gives each country a sense of identity. So one of Canada's greatest fears has always been Americanization, taking over our Canadian culture. So American media has such a great influence on our culture, and it makes sense that we're concerned about losing our identity. We're influenced by the radio, like the songs we listen to, and the movies we watch, and the TV we watch, and what we read, all the magazines, everything like that. So it makes sense that we're scared and worried about losing our identity in all of this, especially because no one watches Canadian television. It's not very good, we don't really care, you know? So because of this, Canada has gone to great lengths to preserve the French-Canadian culture in an attempt to make a distinct separation between the US and us. We want to continue to have a clear identity that is different from our neighboring country. So the pressure to differentiate ourselves from America, along with our high French-speaking population, resulted in French becoming our second official language, which was a change that can be indirectly linked to the presence of America in our media. And this has helped to make Canada a more diverse change, which is definitely, in my opinion, a positive change. Or sorry, I said diverse change, I meant country. But anyways, to conclude, the relationship we share with the States is one that has had a great impact on our culture, our politics, and our economy. Over the years, the relations between the US and Canada have been affected by some historically significant events, but we still maintain a friendly and peaceful relationship to this day.